Good evening. Thank you for tuning in to Face to Face. I'm your host, Dennis Ward. She was one of only a handful of people to first set up camp near Standing Rock. But Joye Braun never imagined it would grow into a worldwide movement. Braun is a member of the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe and the Indigenous Environmental Network. Over the past year, she's become one of the most recognizable faces of the grassroots fight against the Dakota Access Pipeline in North Dakota. But this is not her first time taking on big oil. Braun was part of the opposition to the Keystone XL pipeline. She calls it the zombie pipeline because it has since been resurrected by U.S. President Donald Trump. We spoke with Braun about the many highs and numerous lows during the fight against the Dakota Access Pipeline and the war she believes is being waged against Indigenous people under the new president. One note, this interview was conducted just hours before the Dakota Access Pipeline received the final approval it needs for drilling to take place under Lake Oahe. We're joined by Joye Braun, a member of the Indigenous Environmental Network. And Joy, you were one of the original people that became or went to the camp that became a camp of thousands. Can you speak about those early days and what it was like?
It was cold. Those are first few days. We had set up my teepee and started putting all my stuff in the teepee, and then people realized that I was out there by myself. And then my cousin Wiaka Eagleman said, can't leave her there by herself, so he showed up that first day too. And there was just a few of us. Some of the youth came from Cheyenne River, and some of the youth from Standing Rock came those first couple weeks. JR American Horse and his family came and were big supporters. They live in Cannonball, and every night people from Cannonball would make food and bring it up to the camp, and there was like so much food. Yeah, but yeah, it was pretty amazing. A lot of prayers.
How long did it take before people started to arrive?
And that was after the August 8th notice, that the pre-construction notice that had gone out by Dakota Access, that they were going to start pre-construction on the Cannonball Ranch. I put out a call for people to come, and then LaDonna put out a call for people to come. And between us putting out those calls, people started to arrive. Not in big numbers at first. There may have been only about 28 of us at the camp when the bulldozers started coming and the security forces started showing up. And we put up barricades to the entryway of Cannonball Ranch, first in the north gate and then the south gate. And then when they went outside of their pre-construction notice, which was against the law, and started building an entrance in the middle, then we put up a blockade there. And that's when the first arrestees started happening. And those first 12 are being, their hearing is today.
From a handful of people to 28 people to as many as 10,000, what was it like to have been there and watch it grow like that?
There was 15 to 18,000 people here, if not more. It was amazing. I never seen anything like that. I didn't even think it was possible. But that's the power of prayer. That's the power of everybody saying that, you know, we're united in this. We're united in this one thing knowing that water is life. All of us are made up of water. We start our life in water. And without water, there is no life. And so it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. We were all united against, you know, fighting big corporations, big monsters.
Was that the most inspiring thing you've seen happen at the camp, is the number of people who came, or were there other things that really touched you?
Every morning when the women would get up and go down to the water and say prayers, that was pretty amazing. Every time the youth would run, that was pretty amazing. It was like every single day something amazing happened. You can't just put it down to one or two things. It's like every single morning you wake up to kick the pole. Pipe carriers, sun dancers, wake up. This isn't vacation. We have a job to do. You'd wake up hearing that. Sometimes, we would work for till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and 6 o'clock in the morning we'd hear that. It was a reminder that something amazing was going to happen.
Amongst those amazing times, there were a lot of challenging times as well. Do any stick out for you?
A lot of challenging times. When our people got attacked by dogs. When the bulldozers would be coming up over the hill. When they took treaty camp. Broke my heart. When they took treaty camp, whoever claimed it. When they dumped all of our stuff from after they confiscated everything at treaty camp, they dumped it at the border of the Standing Rock Sioux tribe, just dumped it. And then we brought it back to camp and found out that Dakota Access Pipeline security workers and whoever else was over there, sheriffs or whoever, they had peed and defecated on all of our stuff. Those were heartbreaking times. When they water cannoned us. 28 degrees. When they water cannoned us. Every time they threatened to bring that water cannon out. And every time they bring the mace, and this is not a can of mace like you carry in your purse. These look like big fire extinguishers. Every time you see them bring out those guns with the rubber bullets, those rubber bullets are big. They're big, and it's just a thin coating of rubber. And I remember one young man taking his shirt off, and there 22 holes in his back. And those are heartbreaking. Those are hard to see because, we put out that call for people to come, and every single time one of our people got hurt, it hurt me. But we'll be here until those lights are down, until they stop trying to bore under the water. We'll be here.
Joy, are you shocked at some of the treatment that people have received here?
I'm beyond shocked by the treatment that our people have received here. And the brutality and the evil, and the things that these sheriffs and these police and these security workers have hollered at us. To the common person walking down the street at Bismarck, hollering at us. I've been called prairie nigger. I've been called all kinds of names by both the police on the line and also up in Bismarck and other places. I said to go home. Well, this is my home. This is my traditional territory. This is where I belong. My blood and my DNA goes back thousands of years here. This is my home. And some people just, you have to fight against that. You have to fight against that hate. You have to fight against that racism. You have to try really hard to remind people that we're all essentially spiritual in nature. It doesn't matter the color of our skin or anything. All of this goes to dust. What's left is our spirit, our soul, and that doesn't have a color. But yeah, I am shocked.
We're speaking with Joy Braun right now from the Indigenous Environmental Network. We'll be back with more from Joy on Face to Face.
If a story is uncomfortable, would you change it? No, you wouldn't, because there's no power in holding back. Stories have the power to change lives, so true storytellers uncover every side of hunger, of families, water, shelter, and health. So we're going to tell your stories every day until issues transform and our communities transform with them.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Joy Braun from the Indigenous Environmental Network here on Face to Face. And Joy, you were a familiar face around the DAPL camp, the NoDAPL camp, but I kind of picture you as a young girl with a raised fist. Can you tell us when you first got involved in, this action?
I first started getting involved with specifically pipelines when Keystone XL pipeline decided that it wanted to put its route less than 2 miles from a little community on my reservation called Bridger, South Dakota. The original plan for KXL was to actually cut through my reservation. And when we learned that, we passed tribal laws saying that TransCanada was not allowed on our reservation, as well as Enbridge and a few other big oil companies. They're not allowed to be on our reservation. So they moved it just south, much like Dakota Access moved from Bismarck to just a little bit north of Standing Rock. They like to target Indigenous populations. But that's when I got involved with specifically with pipelines. But I don't know. We always like to laugh and tease in our family, saying that I've had an FBI file since I was 2. So always picking up something.
You know, you were pretty happy about the fact that you had and others in that fight helped to shut down Keystone XL. What was that victory then like?
That was pretty amazing when we had stopped Keystone XL. We had formed alliances. People have heard about Cowboys and Indians Alliance, but we had formed alliances with people, from Canada, from all the way from the tar sands to Nebraska, fighting eminent domain, and it was a big effort. A lot of people put a lot of time and effort into fighting Keystone. So when we won, we had a big celebration powwow. We were all really excited, and I had been fighting, trying to raise awareness about Dakota Access for a year before we won KXL, and I was like, okay, cool, I can stop, I can take a break, and then all of a sudden everything ramped up here, so didn't really get much of a break.
What was it like to see the news that it has been green-lighted again, potentially?
Words that I can't say on television. It was like, here we go again. He had made the promise, and we were kind of like keeping it right here. And then when he signed those memorandum on greenlighting it, it was like, dang, here we go again. My people are in danger again. I mean, it seems like these pipeline companies, they just want to target the Dakota people. And as far as I'm concerned, Trump signing those memorandums, he declared war on the Great Sioux Nation. And Dakota Access, what happened here, was just a little bit taste of what we can do. We'll see what happens. Recently, you had a conference, the Indigenous Environmental Network, saying that you plan to mobilize against Keystone. What would that look like? The camps will reopen. Shield the People camp down at Rosebud. The Potato Spy at Bridger are on the Cheyenne River Sioux Reservation. There will be other camps that open up along the route of Keystone XL, should it come forward again. Now, there's a couple, litigation things that it's going to have to go through, One is it does not have an approved route through Nebraska right now. The individual interveners in the South Dakota Public Utilities Commission hearing are suing the South Dakota PUC, and that court date is March 8th because of a lot of the due process violations and the not letting in certain information regarding climate change and saying no to some of our native testimony. And so that's an obstacle that could potentially be overturned. South Dakota right now has a green light for KXL, but we could overturn it. So there is going to be litigation. There will be certainly a big fight in the courtroom and elsewhere, but there will be camps that go up.
In Canada, we've had one Grand Chief speak of hundreds or thousands of standing rocks coming to Canada too, with a number of pipelines that have recently been approved. Do you think a lot of the people, like you say, 18,000 people at this camp at one time, do you think people are taking that back to their lands, some of the things that were learned there? That
was one of the asks that we do, is that everybody take what they learned from Standing Rock. When we put out the Oceti Sakowin, or the 7 council fire, we gave people embers, and we told people, take this ember and take it back to your community and raise the cry of Mini-Wichoni, raise the cry of environmental injustice, raise the cry that there have been civil wrongs done to people, raise the cry, look around your home and see what you can raise your voice to, because we're all humans. Take this ember and raise it. So I've been hearing that people have taken that ember and have been slowly feeding it. And then when we heard that the memorandum had been signed for Dakota Access and for Keystone XL, I put out a call saying now's the time to light those fires. So yes, there could be potentially 10,000 quote-unquote Standing Rocks happening anywhere. But that's taking the spirit of Standing Rock. That's what we're asking people to do. Is take that spirit of Standing Rock and take it back to your homes. I really want to get up to Canada and go support our First Nations people in Canada, because they came down here to support us, and I want to go up there and support them.
There's been a lot of talk since the recent election of Donald Trump, a lot of fears raised, not just on these pipelines, but do you have fears yourself of the way that Donald Trump may be treating Indigenous peoples in this country?
Under Donald Trump's administration, we are, as Indigenous people and as First Nations people, are going to feel repercussions and that we have never seen the likes of since the 1800s. We are going to see attacks on our sovereignty, on our reservations, the right to even have a reservation, what's left of our land, on our health care, on our education. Everything is going to be under attack under a Trump administration. He has said that he wants to privatize reservations. That is the ultimate and imminent domain. Like I said, he's declared war on us. Girl, we'll fight back.
How do yourself and others across this country take that call to arms?
Well, we absolutely believe in nonviolent direct action, so absolutely no guns, no weapons. The time for guns and weapons was a long time ago. What Trump and people and administrations like him do is what they do to First Nations people, they eventually do to their own people. So the civil liberties that are being trampled on upon us right now is what people in Chicago or New York or Baton Rouge, what they're going to see happen to them. And we really have to unite as a people and say enough is enough. We're not going to stand for this. The old world way of thinking, that's got to stop. It's got to stop.
Joy, we, as always, enjoy you taking the time to speak with us. That's been Joy Braun from the Indigenous Environmental Network, joining us here on Face to Face.
Wopila, thank you.
If a story is uncomfortable, would you change it? No, you wouldn't, because there is no power in holding back. Stories have the power to change lives, so true storytellers uncover every side of hunger, of families, water, shelter, and health. So we're going to tell your stories every day until issues transform and our communities transform with them.
Welcome back. A lot has changed on the ground in Standing Rock since our interview with Joy Braun. In recent days, the Oceti Sakowin camp was raided by law enforcement, the camp that had played host to thousands of people over the past 6 months. Only hundreds were still staying in the camp, cleaning up in the case the area floods. It was just another blow for opponents of the Dakota Access Pipeline. Joye Braun's tribe, Cheyenne River, has since stepped in and offered the powwow grounds in Eagle Butte, South Dakota, for protesters to now move to. Next week, our guest will be best-selling author and graphic novelist David Alexander Robertson. Robertson has long been an advocate for educating youth on Indigenous history and contemporary issues. He tackles some tough issues and feels graphic novels is a great way to reach the youth. Here's a preview of some of that interview.
And I always ask kids in schools now, I say, what would you rather learn from? If you had a comic book in front of you, and if you had a textbook in front of you, what would you rather learn from? And they always raise their hand for the comic book. So it's really exciting for them to learn. So that's really what got me into doing the kind of books that I do is what way can I best engage with and get kids to retain the most information about these issues that are really important to me.
What do you think it is about the graphic novel that gets youth into these types of issues, some of the issues that you take on?
Yeah, so they're very versatile. So there's a couple of reasons why they work so well. One of them is, probably the most obvious reason is that they have this kind of cool factor to them, where, you see them a lot in popular media right now, whether it's in movies or TV shows that are being adapted from comics and graphic novels. So the kids get excited because they're a cool thing to learn in the classroom. But I think cool can only go so far. They have to have like an educational merit to them. So I think what really happens with a graphic novel is that the existence of the words and the images together. So they kind of shoulder the burden of educating together, and they help kids to engage more with the material and to retain more information from them. So in that way, they become a really effective educational tool. And the other thing is, too, one comic book can reach a wide audience.
That's all for today's show. We're always looking for new guests, so if you have any suggestions, please email us at news@aptn.ca. Thank you for tuning in to Face to Face. I'm Dennis Ward.